Honestly, I should be admitted to a mental health institution for sitting here and binging this whole wild ass season. Well, hello to all my monsters out there. Yes, welcome to my channel. If you are a die-hard Ryan Murphy fan, you're already subscribed to this channel. You know what it's all about over here. But if you're not subscribed, if you're new here, welcome. Make sure you guys are joining me because we talk about a lot of messed up shows on here. We talk about everything Ryan Murphy related, even some unreleased shows to the American Horror Story. Ooh, that whole legacy. But today, we are going to be talking about Monster, the Ed Gein Story. Ooh, oh my goodness, this season was a lot. This is at least far better than the Menendez brothers season. I do think, you know what, I like this more than the Dahmer season. I think Evan Peters does a better performance as our titular monster with him playing Dahmer there than Charlie Hunnam's Ed Gein. I think overall Evan Peters delivers a bit more of a more bombastic, bigger performance. But you know what? I really liked this one comparative to the rest of the Monster franchise. You know why? Because they did not ever once try to make us sympathize with Ed Gein. I don't think they ever put him into a position where he feels like, Aw, I do think the later episodes do highlight the mental illness aspect of this and how Ed Gein was a mentally ill man, and putting him in the prison system would have honestly led him to the path that Dahmer had to deal with. So I thought the Ed Gein story comes with a bit more nuance and layers because it was handled a bit better than some of the other ones, especially looking at how the Menendez brothers' aftermath was comparative to what Ed Gein's aftermath was. I think the Ed Gein story dives into a lot of how Hollywood and how the industry took this story and twisted it, which has some meta commentary on top of it, with Ryan Murphy making a show inspired by people inspired by a show. Like, it's so meta and layered, and I do appreciate the show for diving into a lot. This season has a lot to say, and I'm impressed by that. I'm shocked by that. I'm also overwhelmed and underwhelmed. There's a lot of emotions here. We'll kind of break down my whole feeling. I'm not going to get into spoilers. I don't really want to get into episode by episode review. I'll kind of break down the highlights of some of the episodes, except for like 5, 6, and 7, which get into too much of a cop drama for me, and then 8 just feels like an episode of Mindhunter, which hit or miss on how you felt about that show if you like that last episode. But yeah, overall, there's a lot to get into of how I feel. I think overall, the bare bones of this, if you just want to stop the video here, the series is good. I think Monster is probably better than the first season, better than the Menendez brothers, but I don't think it's going to have that impact that Dahmer had. That season took us all by storm. I don't see Ed Gein having that same pop culture impact, which sucks because I do think this is a better season with a more hard-hitting story and a Laurie Metcalf performance y'all do not want to miss out on. So Ryan Murphy has dropped Monster, the Ed Gein story on Netflix. That first episode really is an introduction to our story, with Ed getting his first body. We're hearing the mother's voice in our head, very Psycho inspired. Ha, surprised, Psycho is being made in the background of this. We have Hitchcock in episode 2, which is giving us a bit of the Psycho stuff. That's where some of my complaints on the early episodes fall in. I like that we dove into how the Ed Gein story inspired movies like Silence of the Lambs, how it inspired Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Psycho, as we're talking about now. I appreciate that, and I love that the show did take its time to speak about that. But I think all of those production stories could have been one episode, as opposed to kind of taking away from some of the episodes, some of the moments I liked in the episode, because the pacing of this season is so thrown off in these first couple bits, because again, we're trying to sell the story of Ed by also saying, look what this inspired, look at this, especially what was it, episode 3, where we're having to like see him like have his mother try to kill somebody, but it's very much similar to the grandpa kill in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and how we're cutting back and forth. It's just some of the pacing is thrown off, because again, I think the Ed Gein stuff is great. Do I think some of our Hitchcocky and our Tobe Hooper stuff is my favorite? No, not particularly. I think those are some of the weakest moments out of these early episodes, even though I do slightly like seeing the Anthony Perkins stuff. While we're talking about Psycho, I think Anthony Perkins is a figure in our industry that we don't shine enough light on, this closeted man who was a hell of an actor who, made Psycho, then would later on fall in love with the Psycho franchise all over again and make his own Psychos. My goodness, Perkins deserves his whole own show or movie eventually. Maybe not from the Ryan Murphy catalog, but we shall see. But yeah, the first episode definitely has Ed getting into it. Second episode, we get him doing a kill, and I'm like, ooh, okay. So we get a tour of the house. We get a little bit of the skin stuff. We're like, goodness, this is disgusting. That one girl, Adeline, you get out of the house. What? She talks about it in the last episode where she's like, I'm a bit sick too. And I'm like, I don't know, girl, because the red flags were red flagging and you were continuing to ignore them. Then we get into episode 3 where it's basically like him dancing around in his mom's face. Very, very mixture of Silence of the Lambs and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was great. So yeah, then we have him being a babysitter this episode with a fucked up magic trick. Wow, okay, yeah, this gets wild. And this man, I know he has that soft, gentle voice and he's so sweet. He's not babysitting my children. He's not babysitting, and he definitely gets pissed when another babysitter pops in. This is the Addison Rae cameo here. I cannot believe Addison Rae is all over the marketing, all over this. Like, from her being a TikToker to a fun little modern pop star to now an actress in horror movies because she's been in this and she was in Thanksgiving. I'm kind of amazed, but it's also weird seeing Addison Rae be marketed at all here. But she does have a big centerpiece moment in one of her episodes. It's interesting. It's cool. I'm not going to spoil much if I say one of the girls in this maybe died. You know what I mean? Like, the story of Ed Gein and girls dying, it's not shocking to you. It's not the most shocking, but there is one part of this story that made me a bit shocked and a bit uncomfortable, and I'm curious of the controversy just on this specific part of the story. Was it just me, or am I shocked that Ed Gein was inspired by Ilse Koch, a woman who ran a concentration camp? I did not expect Nazis to be in this season of of Monster. American Horror Story, yes, I remember our Dr. Arden, I remember our creepy doctor. Here, Nazis? Okay, cool. Like, but, it's disgusting, it's sick. It does explain where he was inspired by some things, and there's a really interesting moment later on in the season where he believes he's talking to Ilse, but he's not, because, Ed is a bit cuckoo banana pants crazy. So, yeah, I think this was an interesting note to put in, but I didn't feel like it added or took away anything. It was just like, oh yeah, now we have to talk about Nazis. Like, it just feels like it's one kind of all we're talking about, and I guess we live in real life looking outside. It feels a little wild outside, but it felt like it didn't have any place here. We were already dealing with a lot of the movie stuff, so to have this whole concentration camp woman who is this evil, disgusting, was the bitch of something. I almost said Bloodhaven, but that's a city in DC Comics. You know what I mean? Like, to have all of her story on top of the other deviations from the story, it was just like, oh, more info to be dumped into us, more messed up people to talk about. And then the last episode wants to give us a little hint at Ted Bundy, and I'm like, calm down, series. Like, it's doing too much. It is doing too much, which is so crazy because the story of Ed Gein does not need all the extra padding and filler. Yes, maybe it would have been about 2 episodes shorter if we would have had none of the extra accoutrements, but truly, really, what are we doing here with this extra stuff? Because I don't mind the movie stuff. I see the inspiration that Ilse played on Ed Gein, but none of it really, to me, added to the story and made me go, oh, I understand the Ed Gein story even more now. None of it really did. It padded in some of me loving pop culture and maybe gave me a little bit of, why did you make people into chairs? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it gave me a little bit of padding there, but not enough to really constitute the deviations from the story that we really got from the movie stuff, and specifically the Ilse Koch stuff, which just did not work for me at all. I think one of the most meta parts of this, outside of Ryan Murphy and the production team, because I know it was like Ian Brennan, who was always, I think he wrote most of the season. It's not just look how Ed Gein inspired the movie stuff. You know what I really like? There's a quote from episode 7 where they're saying, like, after the war, everyone has a bloodlust. Like, after Vietnam, we are all in a point where we felt desensitized. And I feel like that way with our American pop culture after 9/11, we became very desensitized as well to just the messed upness of humanity, which is why we got the, like, torture porn genre of hardcore horror movies in the, post 9/11 era. So that's what's interesting here, because we're talking about this now, and, the way that the bloodlust, the way people are going to Ed Gein's house and just picking up things and like killer memorabilia, like that being a major thing people wanted, blows my mind now, blows my mind that it was even something back then. And and the cops are like, well, we can't really do it then. That's just like, maybe that's just where we are now as a society. This is just where people are. And that, again, plays interesting into why I watched 8 episodes of a Ed Gein Story. Like, we are still a very bloodlust, we're all intrigued by the darkness. I think that's interesting, and your intriguedness varies. I'm not a person who wants to collect the weird skin lamp that he made. I'm good on that being in my house, the bad juju there. I'm not even one of those people like, what's that Matt Rife kid who got like the Warren house. I don't want to live in the house or even own Annabelle. I'm good on that. So there's people who are fascinated by the darkness, the macabre, the grotesquerie, and I see you people. As long as you're not gross and hurting people, I guess you can do it. But I like that this season commented on that. And again, it is just the overall commentary, like I said, with Hitchcock, with Tobe Hooper, and with The Silence of the Lambs book and movie. All of that, it's like, how much we dig from real life to then make us feel better, even though the real life stories, we don't need the padding, we don't need the Hollywoodness of this to make us feel it. It's interesting. There's a lot going on here. As much as I did find some of the movie stuff to be distracting, it does fit into the overall commentary of us as a society having a bloodlust, and it's wild that we do, and it's wild that the show talks about it while also contributing to the bloodlust that we have as a society. There's a lot of that's a nuanced layers and layers of conversation here that I just can't get into in a review. But what do you guys think? Are you a fan of the kind of deconstructions of true crime stuff? I know the true crime podcast era, the true crime documentary era was very, very big, and we're getting into it now with the Ed Gein and what Ryan Murphy's doing with Monster and stuff like that. Where do you fall in that thing? Do you like stuff like this? Are you intrigued by stuff, or are you just so disgusted that this is even a talking point that you came to this video to say that you're disgusted? That's fair. That's valid. I want to know your feelings. This series had it all. We had cross-dressing Charlie Hunnam. We had Nazis. We had bloodlust. We had Texas Chainsaw Massacre reimaginings. We had Anthony Perkins getting a blowjob in a movie theater. We had it all in this series. Is it good? Is it bad? I think it falls into the good category. I actually quite enjoyed this series comparatively, at least to the Monsters, the Menendez one. I was not a fan of that. I really did like the Ed Gein one, or the Jeffrey Dahmer one with Evan Peters. I thought that was great. I thought Niecy Nash did good. Here, though, like Vicky Krieps, we have Lesley Manville, Charlie Hunnam, Addison Rae, Suzanna. Like, there was really, really good actors here doing a very, very good job. Tom Hollander as Hitchcock is fine. Like, I do think the supporting cast for this series is a bit better than the ones that we got in Menendez and that we got in Jeffrey Dahmer, which again helps elevate this series to a bit of a better status. Do I think it's going to have the cultural impact of the Jeffrey Dahmer season? No, but I think that's what's going to be a shame, because this Ed Gein Story is probably the best monster we've had yet. Alright guys, what do you think of my review for Monster, the Ed Gein Story? What do you think of this series on Netflix? Have you guys watched it all yet? I tried to do spoiler free, maybe a little light spoilers here or there, just because I want you guys to be able to see this. If this was your deciding factor, go watch it. It's fine. It's grotesque. There's some crazy stuff in here. It's not as gay as the other ones, which points. Cross-dressing is there. I don't know. Did Ed Gein want to be a woman? Who knows? I'm not in that man's brain. But yes, what did you guys think? Share your thoughts down in the comments below. What was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part? Let me know down there. Make sure you guys subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. All that jazz. And let's talk about this messed up series right down below.